right, so here we go. I'm going to start this and ask you guys some questions. So, first, I sort of said it, but you tell me, what is top lining?
Yeah, so I'll jump on this one. So it's cool because, like Bill, I get emails all the time from all different types of writers. And, a lot lately, I've gotten emails from people who, writers and artists who say, oh my gosh, I didn't even know top lining was a thing. And once they discover it, they just think it's the coolest thing ever. And I agree on that. This whole thing came about really by, I was doing demos for writers and doing these songs, and they were putting out a lot of money for demos. And I had a bunch of tracks that I had done, because it takes a lot of tracks to get good at tracking. You just got to do a lot of tracks. So I had a lot of tracks that were sitting there, and I'm like, I think people could use these. And I also had heard about Song Tom's top lining class. And so I put these tracks out there just to see what would happen. And it was so cool because people started using the tracks to write songs. They would send me the tracks afterward, send me the songs they wrote to it. And they were writing really great stuff. And that's really where the expansion came about. I kept putting more tracks out there. And that's really where it came from. Essentially, top lining is taking a pre-made track, an instrumental track, and there's ones in all types of genres, pop, hip hop, country, world, whatever, and adding your own lyrics and melody to it. And what's cool about them is they already have outline sections. So they have, a predefined verse, maybe a pre-chorus, a chorus, a bridge. All that stuff is, already in the track. So it's a fully produced song, that you just basically add your lyrics and melody to. As the slide says there, this idea really of top lining came from initially from hip hop and rap. When rap really started to rise, these rappers were out there and they were looking for beats that they could rap over, because you can't just rap without music. So, they began going on the search for producers who were creating great hip hop beats. And so producers, on the other hand, realized that rappers were looking for this. So they started creating instrumental tracks that rappers, in hopes that rappers would pick up their stuff and add a rap to it and release it. And so a lot of that was happening in New York and LA, that sort of thing. And so it kind of bled over also into pop, where now it's really popular in pop to top line. Tons of people top line, in the pop genre in LA and New York. And then you were telling me that in Europe it's taken off.
Common.
And so, anyways, it's kind of moving through the genres. And over the last few years, it's made its way to Nashville and other music centers, so that now, country guys are doing it, songwriters are doing it, all that sort of thing. And so, we're just excited to be a part of it because, we enjoy doing it ourselves. And and so we're going to get into some of the benefits of it.
Yeah, go for it, Ryland.
So, quite a few benefits here as it relates to top lining. Tracks essentially, are setting a mood, which can bring about, a more emotional lyric, a more outside the box melody. And also they kind of create, I know for a lot of people, a lot of the feedback that we get, and I know we feel this way as well, but it kind of creates, a track can create a picture in your mind and start to, find ways that we're going to tell this story in a new way. Something that, I remember, one of our mentors, Clay Mills, I remember when I was first starting out with country, I had a hard time stepping outside of my box. And I remember, one of the first things he mentioned was, start writing to like a drum beat that you've never written to before.
Right.
It will bring out something different. So top lining, very similar. It's a little more amped up, a little more going on there, some more bells and whistles to even further that creativity.
Yeah, and just the other day, it's, as far as the picture it puts in your head, he texted me the other day and said, man, whenever I put on Coast, which is one of our top lining tracks, He says, whenever I put on Coast, he goes, the moment it starts, he goes, I'm on the beach with a girl with a drink in my hand,
Sunset.
you know, and it's just like that picture just,
You know,
comes right to mind. And, that's where it can bring out a more emotional lyric in that sense,
and it's going to be different for everybody. And,
Yeah.
and that's what's kind of cool about it. You get access, an individual can access something different from, a common track or a licensed
Yeah,
track.
I just wrote one to Coast, and it wasn't beachy at all. I can tell you that.
Exactly.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing though is I get your tracks and I play them with my co-writers, and we say, okay, let's either look through our titles to see what that fits with that kind of track, or let's come up with a new one because that reminds me of a beachy vibe, and let's write a beachy song. So it really does inspire you. You know how sometimes you just listen to a song and you just feel inspired. Well, this is the song without the lyrics and the melody, and it just evokes something from you.
Absolutely. And yeah, just to get through the rest of what's going on in this slide here that we're looking at, these benefits, track's going to get your co-writers excited right from the beginning of the write.
Yeah.
If it's a solid track, chances are you're not the only one that loves it. So you're going to, just like you do in any given co-write, you're going to have those other perspectives. And when it boils down, you're going to have something pretty cool with 2 or 3 or more heads together.
Yeah.
Another big one that we noticed right off the bat was, you could save yourself that expense of all those demos and all those recording sessions. There's absolutely a time and place for that, and there always will be. However, as a songwriter, and in many cases as an artist, some of those sessions, I don't know about you guys, but I've been in sessions, I've even produced sessions myself that didn't turn out exactly the way I wanted to. When you're top lining a track, when you're licensing a track, you licensed it because you loved it, so that's already taken care of. There's no risk there. And we'll talk about the time savings a little bit later on in the presentation here. But yeah, that's a big one that we noticed right off the bat. And also, it kind of goes hand in hand, but you could demo way more songs in a fraction of the time. And again, we'll get to that later. But
And if you're a singer and a good singer, or even an adequate singer, you can represent that song without being a producer. You can just put the vocal on top of it, or especially if one of your co-writers or you are a really good singer, you've got your demo and maybe, close to a fantastic thing. And you talk about time here, and you just mentioned it. I wrote a song with our friend Marty Dodson and my friend Michelle Canning, my roommate in Nashville, and it's for Reba, and Reba is cutting next week. To get a demo done, we wrote it to a track, and to get a demo done in that time, it's doable, but it's tight. It's probably not going to happen. To get a good singer on it, to get a good demo, to get it the way you want, as you said, Ryland. But we already had the track, and he said, I don't know if we can write one quickly enough to get it to her. I said, well, I already get a track. He said, okay, I'm in. So that was it. It convinced Marty we had a really good idea and a unique idea. And he's like, okay, I'm in. If we can get the track done in time, I'm in for the co-write. And we did it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's one more benefit on here that, or it's not included in the slide here, but it's almost my favorite one. I think, the time we spend writing, that's valuable time. And the time, the money that we invest in demoing songs, that's valuable. All that stuff, a lot of value associated there. And I think something that's almost a byproduct of top lining, this idea of a shelf life.
Mm-hmm.
When you go get a demo done, depending on where you get it, and depending who's playing on it, it might, fit this one niche, and it might fit into a certain time period. And who knows, to the point earlier, that might become dated over time, right? Mm-hmm. But when it comes to top lining, you're dealing with producers on the cutting edge, listening to contemporary music and trying to push boundaries all the time. So what I love about top lining is, you can license a track, and that track very likely is going to span multiple genres. If you get we'll talk about it later, but, on jettracks.com, you look at the country section, chances are there's pop elements there. There's R&B elements there. There's rock elements there. And that's really going to, spur that creativity. But at the same time, that demo is going to be able to be pitched for a long, long time. So,
yeah.
Well, I'll just second that, because once I found out about Toplining, I went and searched the web for country tracks, because I remember writing a lot of commercial country, and they were all like, there, 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 and I was like, that's not country. That's somebody's idea of country western from the '60s. Some producer who just is trying to make money. You guys are actually producing pop country, pop leaning country stuff. And I'm like, the only place I could find really good pop country was, from those tracks. And I'm like, the other ones sound like somebody's cartoon idea of country, because they have EDM and pop and country pop and contemporary country feels to them. And that is hard to find. So sort of the producers are curators as well in a certain way.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So let's talk about where to find those tracks, because once I learned how to Topline and learned there was a thing, I went out and searched, and I had really mixed results in terms of prices, in terms of what the legal abilities I had to use that track for various purposes, and also, where do you find good tracks? So let's talk about that. So the reason I wanted you guys on here is because you're just launching Jet Tracks, and so
yes.
Talk to us about what that is and what your vision is, and then we'll get into some specifics about it.
Yeah, we're super excited about this. So this was something Ryland and I talked about a few months ago, and then we decided to just give it a go. So Jet Tracks is it's a multi-vendor marketplace for Toplining tracks. So basically, we want to encourage other producers to upload their material so that it can be a place where we have lots of different producers and we have Toplining tracks coming in all the time. On my site, which, some of you guys have gotten tracks off my site, it's hard to keep a constant flow of fresh material coming out all the time. And that's what's cool about Jet Tracks is we'll have other producers on there uploading stuff. And so, it will always have fresh sounds on there. And, even right now on Jet Tracks, we haven't gotten any producers yet, but we put our tracks on there. And I think we have over 100 tracks on there, which is super cool. 30, yeah. And so we have a ton of tracks. We have several genres, pretty much every genre but reggae has something on it.
Coming soon.
Coming soon, yeah, I got to work on some reggae tracks.
Come on.
But yeah, and we have we also expanded the pricing and the licensing, which is cool, so that we have options for everybody, and we're going to get more into that, so I'm not going to get into it super deep right here. And then we also created the ability to create wish lists, because I know sometimes you have time and you just want to go on there and listen to a bunch of stuff, and you want to be able to just pick and say, hey, I love this. I don't want to buy it right now, but at some point I want to buy this. And so we've created wish lists on there. And basically our vision is that Jet Tracks will become a place where hit songs are inspired. And, before when I first started making Toplining available, I wasn't really sure what the limits of that is as far as people seeing success with it and things like that. But that is one of the coolest things, because I've been totally blown away by the emails I get from people getting really good traction with their tracks. I've had several people get sync placements with their tracks. I've had people get their first song cut. I think he's on here, Franklin, get his first song cut. And so I get these emails in of people getting traction and saying, thank you. I'm so glad that, this track helped get this song across. And, essentially that's what it is. At the end of the day, producer or publishers and, the deciders of the people who decide if music gets out there, at the end of the day, they care about the song. It's the song itself that they're interested in, but the track is what delivers that song in the best way.
And it's going to set that up on a pedestal.
Yeah, and it's going to make them listen
unique.
right away. The days of, sending in a work tape to a publisher, it happens here and there. But nowadays, to catch the attention, because a lot of these publishers listen to 100 songs a day, and so to capture that attention, the track will help grab the attention, and then they'll listen to the song, which is what's the really interesting part. And so that's why we say that we see it as a place where hit songs are inspired.
That's cool. So I had early access to this site because Joey and I have kept in touch about this, because he knows I bought like almost all the tracks from his individual site, and it's like, hey, would you just help us make sure everything's working on this site? So I got on early. I still haven't gotten through all the tracks, and I'm listening to them daily. I bought a bunch of them. I've written 5 songs to tracks I bought already. And so when I talked, I said, I'm going to let everybody know about this. Let's just do a webinar, and I'll just talk to you guys about it and share it with other people, because I want everybody in the world to know about this. I don't have any financial incentive or anything. I just want songwriters to be able to have access to it and know about it. But when I talked to you, you guys were like, just blew me away, because you came back and said, hey, if we have a place to sign up for notification of new tracks and any news that comes out of Jet Tracks. So if people sign up, because you want to really get the word out about this, if they sign up before October 1st, you get a free track.
Yeah, we're going to send you guys a free track.
Yeah,
and so that's partly why I was so excited about inviting you all on here. It's like, go to Jet Tracks. Now, there's no 2 T's. I always have to do that when I'm doing it. And I think Joey Ebach Tracks, that's how I remember it. But it's really Joey, Ryland, and a bunch of other producers. But sign up, go on to the jettracks.com and sign up for their, notification list. You'll see a little place to sign up, like it's pretty obvious on the site. And if you sign up before October 1st, they'll send you a free track. Now, we're going to talk about what the legal limitations of you using these tracks are. So that does not mean you own that track. Does not mean you can release it to radio, Spotify, put it on a record. That's one of the reasons I wanted to do this webinar, because I didn't know anything about, and I didn't know anything about the legalities of it when I first started doing Toplining. The second thing is they're really variable, and I'm going to tell you sort of some cautionary tales, because I've been more on the other side of this than Ryland and Joey. I'm not the producer, I'm the consumer of it. And I've gotten tripped up a couple of times, because you really have to pay attention to the legalities of this and stay within legal stuff, because every time you violate a copyright, and these are copyrighted songs, these are copyrighted tracks, every time you violate a copyright and you haven't got the rights to it, you can get in big trouble legally and financially. So avoid that, and we're going to help you avoid that. So I don't want to scare you, but I want to make you aware of it.
And also, I want to back up just really quick and talk about that free track real quick. Obviously, our intention there is, we want you guys, if this is something that you're interested in, we want you to kind of go through this experience and maybe have any takeaways you learned here, or maybe you're already very experienced. But we'd love to also hear about what, if you sign up for the list, we send you that track, and if you go ahead and write that song to that track, we'd love to hear what your experience was like, because that's really our intention there. We want to see, that this was a productive, tool, to kind of open up some creativity there. So please, let us know at that email, and I'll just reiterate it. It's info@jettracks.com.
And send us the song you write. I'm always, people send me the songs they write to the tracks all the time. Yeah. And I just love hearing it, because a lot of times it's totally different song than I would have written to that track ever. And it's just interesting. It's cool, and it's rewarding too. Just as a producer, it's cool to hear how people will just take it in their own direction, and so I love that. So send them on if you guys write a song to it.
That's cool. So, but there is a warning. I have to do a warning like they do on the cigarette packets. You're going to get that free track if you sign up, and you're going to get that free track. And if you write a song to it, It's a bit addictive. I just want you to know you're probably going to want to do it again, because the first time I did it, I was so excited. It's like, wow, like I got a whole song and I don't even have to, the track is already there. I can just sing it. It's so cool. So, just be warned. If you download that free track and you do this to dip your toe in, you're probably going to want to jump in the shallow end or the deep end pretty quickly. So it's cool.
Yeah,
Very
absolutely.
generous of you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, now we're gonna get into some legality stuff, and what is the licensing thing really all about? And we're gonna go into some detail on those licenses. So, there's some information, quite a bit of information coming at you, but we'll try to keep it as straightforward as possible. Again, any questions, either shoot us an email directly or ask it at the end of the webinar, whatever you like. So let's get into this stuff. Joey had a really great metaphor. He compared licensing toplining tracks to kind of like leasing a car, right? There's a lot of reasons why somebody would lease a car as opposed to purchase a car, right? So similar to leasing a car, we aren't selling the track itself, but rather providing those benefits of ownership, right? And when you purchase a license from a producer, they're essentially giving you the freedom to use that track within the boundaries of that license, royalty free. So we've spent a lot of time, again, as we spoke about earlier, spent a lot of time iterating over these licenses, making sure that not only are they providing value, we've redone them.
We've gone over these licenses like 1,000 times.
Yeah, because you do an iteration. Yeah, you do an iteration and you learn some things. And it's like, oh, that doesn't make sense, or that's not so beneficial. So we've gone through those iterations, and our terms are pretty cut and dry. If you go on our website, if you kind of browse through our terms of use, or even on a more simplified basis, browse through our FAQ, you'll see some of this stuff covered that we're going to talk about right now. But yeah, essentially, when we're bringing on a new producer, and we're approving that producer to upload tracks, and we're approving each track on a track-by-track basis. They're acknowledging there that they're giving you that freedom to use that track within the boundaries of that license that you purchased, and that'll never go away.
Yeah,
that's royalty-free. Nothing that you owe on the back end, even though you weren't the one to necessarily create the track, right?
And also along with that, no co-writing.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. So you're not a co-writer on the track, so you're not getting the royalties of the publishing for whatever song they write, but there are these 4 basic licensing options. So why don't you go through those?
Yeah. So we've broken our licensing down into 4 categories, and this is in an effort to really provide the benefits to anybody along their journey, right? So we have a license called Basic, we have one for Standard, Pro, and then Ultimate Plus finally. And what you'll notice as we go through these, the benefits are really stacking up as you move from Basic towards the Ultimate Plus. And Ultimate Plus isn't going to be for everybody, and Basic's not going to be for everybody. So let's go through this, and you might see where you might fit. So the Basic license, that is going to provide high quality MP3. And this is really going to be great for songwriters pitching songs and any kind of unpaid usage and performance for new artists and singer-songwriters. Some things that come to mind for me are things like SoundCloud, or unpaid shows in the case of, hip hop and pop, where the live show, many cases, is based around a track being played. And also one thing to note, as we go through these licenses, you're gonna kind of hear different categories kind of increase as we go up, and those are gonna be, just for reference, streaming, physical distribution, live performance, broadcast, and music video. Okay, so again, that Basic one's kind of songwriter specific in many cases, and artist writer specific. You get that high quality MP3. On Standard, okay, you're going to get an added benefit of a high quality wave, a 16-bit wave. And that 16-bit wave, I don't know if there's other artists and songwriters out there that have released music in the past, but 16-bit is in many cases a requirement for
Physical distribution.
well, not even physical distribution, in that many cases for physical, but also for digital.
Yeah.
So, and then also, as we move into that standard license, then there's, you start to see some access for releasing to established streaming platforms. So streaming, you have up to 250,000 streams, physical distribution, up to 2,500 copies, okay? And moving on to that pro license, now we're gonna get that 24-bit wave. So you're gonna get everything you got in the standard, but we're gonna add that benefit of that 24-bit high resolution wave, which many people care about, you know? And we're gonna up that streaming to 500,000 streams, physical distribution to 5,000 copies. And now we start to get into some opportunities like broadcast and music video, up to 1 music video and up to 3 stations. So wherever you kind of are, you always wanna make sure that you're fitting within the context of your license. And if you start to go beyond that, just feel free to reach out and we'll handle that upgrade for you. But that pro starts to be great for limited broadcast and airplay, kind of higher streaming numbers, right? 500,000 spins is quite a bit. So, and obviously all the benefits of the prior 2 licenses. Now, the final license is that Ultimate Plus. Now this one is kind of unique. Not only do you get the MP3, the 16-bit wave, and the 24-bit wave, but all those caps that we were talking about, all those limits on distribution and streaming and live performance, et cetera, broadcast, all those limits go away and now it's just unlimited, right? And the deal with Ultimate Plus is there's only one person that can have this license, because the other caveat here on Ultimate Plus is that the track, we call it a buyout. The track gets removed from Jet Tracks after the purchase. So you're gonna be the last one to own that one. And that's really going to be great for those high streaming numbers, unlimited broadcast airplay. You know, Joe was talking about seeking sync placements, you know, it's gonna be great for that. Touring radio artists and ultimately, you know, free and unlimited use of your final song.
Yeah, and what's cool about these is, go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, so I mean, to use your analogy back to leasing a car, that's when you buy the car and it's not going to go back to somebody else to lease at that point. So, you know, it's your car then. And I will tell you 2 things about this, and then you can jump in, Joey, with what you were going to say. One is I've gotten tracks at a certain level, and then I've gone back to buy them at the new level when I've written a great song to them or I want to use it for something else. And they make me buy it again the whole price. With you guys, you can just upgrade to the next level, right?
Essentially what I was going to say is, yeah, you can upgrade. And, you know, if you have an art that, you know, I was going to say, if you have an artist that you're writing with and you want to bring them a track that they might want to cut, what's cool is you can look at their streaming numbers and say, okay, I think this kind of track would fit that artist. And, you know, you can purchase that license and they have a track that's ready to go when you write that song. And then, you know, like you said, Bill, you can always upgrade your license. And I think that's a really important aspect because, you know, I mean, the other aspect of it is, you know, what if you yourself release it and, you know, you think you're going to be under 50,000 streams and, you know, it's the next Call Me Maybe, you know, we have that option there to upgrade, you know.
So that's cool. I think that's really cool. And so they just can pay the difference between, they can just do an upgrade license for the next one. And what about stems? Any of these include stems? So which are stereo, individual instrumental files or vocal files?
Yeah, so here's the deal. We wanted to include stems right from the start. We ran into some storage issues, so we are working on bringing stems in. But the tracks on by Monday, I'm going to be marking my producer names, our producer names, with JE. And so all those tracks on there that have JE, if you purchase a Pro or Ultimate license and you want the stems, I have the stems for all of those tracks, and I
Wow.
can send them
So those
to you
come
via
with the
link.
Pro and the
Separately.
Ultimate. Those come with
Pro
the Pro
or
and the Ultimate for the ones
Or
that are
Ultimate Plus.
the ones that
Yeah,
are the JE that'll be marked with JE, and you're working on maybe
yeah.
getting the other ones with the other producers. I just want to. Sorry, this is a little jumping, but I know James, who's in England here. He's a producer. He is part of J2 producers. And so if there are other producers that want to get on this, obviously they should just contact you, send you some samples of what they do. You're going to be pretty picky. It's not for everybody. You got to be a pretty high level producer to even pass the bar to, get through that. But if you've got some producers out here or listening, send them some tracks and get it, give it a shot. And if they're not good, if they're not up to their standards, they'll let you know if they're not up to their standards, and you keep working and reapply sometime.
And one thing on that for the producers in the house, yeah, that's not, we have a way, a very automated process for producers. So why don't you guys know that, we tried to make that process really hassle-free. So,
Cool.
when you register as a producer.
And we don't have to be approved for a producer, we approve the track.
Yeah, we approve on a track-by-track basis. So as soon as you upload a track as a producer, we know about it, and then we'll start providing that feedback, and hopefully we can get those things on there. And it's very automated. We try to make it as seamless as possible. So for all the producers out there, love to hear the stuff. But
so
just
basically,
hop on and upload.
Yeah, just go to Sell Tracks and then create your producer account, and then in your dashboard, you'll have all your information in there. But just go to Add Track and then Upload, and then it's going to come to us, and then we'll approve or send you feedback on the track after that. But feel free to do that. We'd love to have we'd love to expand that.
So that's just
cool.
built into the site. That's built into the site. So let's talk about how to avoid copyright infringement problems.
Absolutely. So let's kind of take this all the way back to the source, being jettracks.com. At the source, as we said before, we're not selling copyrights and we're not selling songs. That's where you guys come in. That's where the songwriter and the artist writer come in. We're licensing, essentially chord progressions on steroids, right? With all those bells and whistles that are going to really, make those ears turn, in a pitch meeting. And those tracks, as Joey mentioned earlier, they're kind of set up to be structurally in that tried and true format of what makes a hit song work, right? So right out of the gate, we're trying to, as a top-lining writer, we're all trying to put our best foot forward and get as much out of the way as possible. So we focus on writing the best song, right? So these are going to be set up, and you're going to be able to hear those choruses when they come in. You're going to hear that bridge and those verses and those turnarounds. All that's going to be prevalent. So that's going to, ideally, allow you to write that song that the track inspires out of you.
Well, I'm going to interrupt because I want to say something on this point. It's a really good point, because I've gotten some top-lining tracks from other sites, and they say, we claim copyright. We are your co-writer when you write that song. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. No. And I already bought the track. I'm like, no, you're not a co-writer. And you guys are like, nope, sorry, our hands off with that. We're not claiming had to have written that song with you. We're not taking 1/3 or 1/2 or whatever it may be. So I think that's eminently fair, especially for the prices that you're charging. So.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And we look at that, we look at that cost as far as publishing or royalties that, a producer wouldn't get for that stuff as being, tied up in the cost that you buy or that you license the track for.
Right.
So that's kind of how we look at that.
I mean, and it sort of works for you guys because you can lease the track multiple times. So if a track's really popular, you might make more than if you were a co-writer, and that's fair for both sides as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, it's cool.
Absolutely. Did you have something you want to say on that?
No.
Okay. Yeah, so let's get back to infringement. Regarding infringement, that's just something, to Bill's kind of point earlier, that's just something that cannot take place. as a producer of jet tracks, whether it be us or whether it be, you know, a third party on this multi-vendor marketplace, the originating producer has acknowledged by uploading the track that customers are free to use that track under the terms they've licensed from the producer. Now, as a customer, you want to stay within those terms, right? Which are pretty cut and dry. They're not super complicated, but the producers agreed to that, you know? So, you know, as far as infringement goes, okay, if you think about it, okay, as a songwriter, I don't own this track, right? I leased the track. So the producer created it, right? The track. We're not talking about the song. We're just talking about the track specifically. But an infringement is against our policy, against our model.
Because we don't sell copyrights.
Yeah, we don't sell the song.
Yeah, so.
You know, you guys are writing the songs.
Yeah.
We're licensing.
That's the copyrighted portion of it, is the song itself versus the track.
Yeah. So yeah, ultimately, again, so multiple songwriters can license a track, write their own song to it, operate under that license freely. And as a songwriter, you have that copyright of your finished song by default. You don't have a copyright on you don't own every bell and whistle on that track, but you do own your song. You go out and play your song, you know, it happens to be to a given chord progression. That's your song. And you were inspired by a top line track, and you use that track to pitch or to release under the terms of your license.
Right.
Well, speaking of that, early hip hop would sample things, and it had to get fought out in the courts. They had to pay copyright because somebody else had written that song and put it out, and they didn't license it. They didn't go through the process of getting a license from somebody like Jet Tracks, and they had to pay royalties, and they had to pay infringement fees, which, you know, right now, if you can prove infringement, it's a boatload of money without even having to go to court and try it. You can just show infringement, and there's an automatic, I don't know, it's like $20,000 to $50,000 fine if you've infringed on someone else's copyright, and you can show it.
Right.
So that's
Absolutely.
scary stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, we, it's just not part of it's not something we're interested in. We're interested in providing some value for writers, artists, and producers. And it's just not part of our interest at all. We're busy, you know, writing songs and producing tracks. And we're far more interested in, you know, creating this model where a producer, again, is like, hey man, I understand the situation here. I understand what I'm getting myself into. I want to license this track for a fee, and I'm not looking for anything on the back.
Well, it's partly because you guys are songwriters too, and you understand what we go through, so that's cool.
Absolutely. And, you know, and to make one last point on that last slide, you know, contrary to song sampling and co-writing and publishing, you know, the Jet Tracks producer has licensed you exactly what you purchased, you know, and it's at that fraction of what it would normally cost on the front end, because we're kind of doing this reverse engineering of the whole process, if you think about it. And we'll get into that a little bit later, but yeah, nothing going on the back end.
So let me ask you another question that occurs to me. Could they, if they know how to use like Logic or Pro Tools or one of those DAWs, could they say, you know, that bridge, I don't even want a bridge in there. Can I cut it out? Would that mess up their license?
No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah, as long as you're working within the terms of that license, there's nothing against, you know, because everybody knows, like when you write a song, it's like, you know, maybe you got one more line, or you want that pre-chorus double or something cut in half.
Right.
You know, you're gonna need to do that. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's part of that license, that you're not saying you have to keep it exactly how we gave it to you. You can't mess with it at all. Because I've gotten some tracks that say you cannot alter it one bit.
Yeah, we're not saying that you can't alter the track. You can alter the track. We're just saying that essentially the license on the track, the boundaries of the license on the track has to be maintained. And then, you know, beyond that, the copyright aspect is going to be on your song itself, not on the track, because we don't sell copyrights.
And some producers do. Some producers sell or claim the copyright, and you guys aren't doing that. All right. So sync, because I'm writing about 15% sync now, and we should explain sync. Sync is something that a song that's synchronized, or music that's synchronized to TV or movies or commercials or advertisements or documentaries or something like that. And that requires that ultimate license, right?
Correct.
Absolutely. So yes, as you mentioned, so for more commercial artists, and if you're looking for that sync placement opportunity, that's really what that Ultimate Plus license that we talked about earlier is for. Again, it offers free unlimited use of the track. And, you know, Joey's point earlier, you know, even if your song had, you know, if it was a massive hit or background music for a commercial or something along those lines, you not only keep all the royalties that as we've kind of gone over already, but you have the necessary license terms required for that really broad exposure. If you just wanted to remove those caps, those limitations, again, not for everybody, but you know, some people are looking for a certain thing, and you know, so that's why we've created this Ultimate Plus license. We wanted something that was going to fit this category, because honestly, we talked about this before. I think we've all kind of been on, not everybody in here necessarily, but myself, Joey, and Bill, we've kind of explored some other top lining options in the past just to see what was out there. And in many cases, I see stuff that they're not always songwriter friendly as far as pitching goes, and they're not always release friendly, and not always sync friendly. So that's what we try to do the best we can here with this license. And it also comes with that guarantee from the originating producer. Not only is it removed from Jet Tracks, we kind of handle that in an automated fashion, but the originating producers also, you know, acknowledging that this will not be leveraged again, licensed again in the future. So
Yeah,
that's what that Ultimate Plus is all about.
That's
Yeah,
really
just in
cool.
our categories, on the categories on our site for the licensing. So it's, you know, unlimited streams, unlimited broadcasts, unlimited music video. What am I skipping? Unlimited physical distribution. So, you know, we have like 6 categories on there, and just for that license, it's unlimited everything. So it's free and
That's
clear
cool.
usage completely.
Yeah.
It's mighty cool. And again, some people may not know, but sometimes I've gotten a demo done, and then if I want to release it for sync, I have to go back to the producer and have to pay them way more money to have it released as a sync master. It's a master recording rather than a demo recording. All right, so now let's talk a little about, because we have a bunch of songwriters on here, there are some hints in the track usually that can, you know, it's like, oh, I'll just sing along to that instrument that's playing sort of a background thing. How do you guys have written so much to tracks, and so have I. How do you avoid that obvious track that everybody who gets this track is going to do some similar melody? Because as you say, people send you their songs and you're like, wow, I would have never done that. That song is totally different from that song, and they were written to the same track. Different rhythms, different melodies. Where they come in on the song is different. How do you do it?
Yeah, so I think, yeah, I'm starting in a little different section, but like, you know,
Yeah,
I think
that's fine.
even before that, we have, you know, we all have our own like chord progressions that we go to. I know when I play with an acoustic guitar, I have these tendencies to go to these same chords because I know they work, I like them, and you know, I have a tendency to go with the same melodies, essentially. So, you know, a lot of times I have to break that pattern. And this is one way that using tracks helps me, because it gets me out of that normal groove that I go to, the normal cadence, the normal chord progression, all that kind of stuff, to hear something different and, you know, drive that. And like I say there, part of that, the reason we do that is the music that we listen to. And so by default, listening to different music is going to make us think a little bit differently about that.
Yeah, sorry,
Another
I sort of threw you by asking the wrong question, because I think that's a really important point. When I first came to Nashville, I would pitch my songs, and they go, those sound like the Beatles and the Eagles, which were 2 of my big influences. And I'm like,
Right.
yeah. And they'd say, no, that's already gone. We want contemporary stuff. We want something different. And I definitely didn't write any pop stuff. I'd say about 15% of the time now I'm writing pop stuff because I'm getting pop tracks, and I'm like, wow, this really inspires me to do more different phrasing and different things, and definitely break out of that Eagles Beatles pattern that I was in when I first came.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm in the same boat. I mean, when I first started writing, everything sounded like CCM because I worked in that field for forever, and it was all the music I listened to. So so it helped me to get so slowly I broke out of it, mainly by being around country people and listening to country music and things like that. But yeah, just moving on. So another thing that's great about it is it's a great way to get out of the genre and write for something you're not used to writing for. If you write pop, or I mean, if you want to write pop and all that comes out is country, then try getting just like a hardcore pop beat and just see what comes out. I would be willing to bet that it's probably going to start getting that pop aspect out. And so just moving on from there, that kind of along the same lines is this is kind of a tip outside of just toplining, but I believe that songwriting has an acting aspect to it. You are taking on the role of a character and trying to capture that feeling. I'm a married man. I haven't felt heartbreak in years and years and years, but I write about it every day. So but I'm taking on the role of a character and who has heartbreak, and I'm trying to deliver that emotion. I always say in writes that essentially as songwriters, we sell a packaged emotion, and we say, here, maybe that emotion is first love. If you can capture the emotion of first love into a song and give it to somebody, people will buy it. I guarantee you they will, because it's just they want that emotion, that feeling. And so anyways, back to toplining. Try taking that to its limits. And I had a guy the other day who is not a hip hop guy at all, but he wrote a hip hop thing, and he ended up winning a competition over it. I think some of you guys probably saw it on Facebook.
Yeah.
And he was so excited about it, and I'm just like, that's amazing, But he took on a role and went with it. And I think a lot of times we put ourselves into these certain boxes where it's like, I'm not very pop, or I'm not very this. Stop saying that. Just act it. Pretend until you become.
Right.
And move yourself into that role. Lastly, and this is kind of an all-around songwriting thing, is always question your first melody choice. I'm not saying don't go with your first melody choice. I'm just saying always question it. One thing, I've written with a lot of really high-level writers. That was a shocker for me, actually. And one of the things I noticed right away is, we critique melody to death, or we critique lyrics to death. We're just like, is this the right thing to say? Is this, all the time, right? These high-level writers do that with melody too. They, even when we're, coming to the end of the song, just like you'd go back and look at a certain word and say, is that the right word? They are always critiquing melody, and they're asking themselves, is this fresh? Does it inspire the emotion that we're trying to capture here? Or is it just predictable and have I heard it before? And so just always be questioning that melody throughout your song. As much as you critique the lyric, critique your melody, so.
Well, and so I'll say this, because you're privy to this, because people do send you this. You will hear that track that you created, one of you two created, and someone will write a song to it, and then 5 more people will send you their songs, and you'll say, these songs have almost nothing in common.
They don't.
Melodically, lyrically, it's shocking. And so sometimes you think, well, there's only one way to write to this. No, there's 100 ways to write to that track.
Yeah. And I've actually, I've gotten tons of tracks back, and I personally, I mean, it'll probably happen someday, but I've never had 2 tracks that sound really similar to each other.
Cool.
I've had people go in the same direction as far as an emotion goes, or like theme, but as far as melody go, I've never seen it happen, And what's cool about that is what I said before, is that at the end of the day, when you pitch this to publishers, even if the track has multiple people on it, essentially what the publisher cares about is this a good song? If you get it cut by Billy Currington is not going to use the track. He's going to go make a new track. But you're presenting the song in the best way, and that's what they care about. Is this a great song? So the track just helps to deliver your song in the best way.
Yeah, it's like kind of like a two-step thing, right?
Yeah.
So the beauty of the top lining track, regardless of where you got it from, it's like that if it's a great track and you're playing it for, you know, somebody within the industry, like the first thing is like their ears. They can't, you know, they're not going to be able to fight that. So they're going to be like, does this sound good, right? That's the first question. The second question is that song good?
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, that first one, this is going to help kind of, again, get stuff out of the way and move into the more important stuff, the more important feedback, you know, which is, you know, making sure that song is great.
Yeah.
And
well,
Joey's,
again,
I think
you
he's
know,
going to talk.
I paid to get my demos made when I first came to Nashville, and people say, that sounds like a standard Nashville, you know, track. And then I got some of your tracks, and people said, wow, that's a really contemporary track. They didn't even hear the song yet. They just started to hear the track, and they're like, that's really contemporary. Great. Now they wanted to listen on, you know? So you don't want anything to get in the way if you're trying to write commercially and pitch your songs. All right.
Yeah.
Why can toplining make your songwriting faster?
Yeah. So, you know, I think we've all been there. That first 30 minutes to an hour of a write where you're trying to find a groove. And sometimes when you're with new people, it can even be a little bit awkward, you know, because you're playing real quiet because you're like, are they going to like this or not? You know, you just don't know. And, you know, you're kind of mumbling under your breath. That's where toplining can take that whole first 30 minutes to an hour and just kill it. Which is good because, you know, if you have a groove going right away, that's going to feel much better. The write is going to feel more fluid. It's going to, you know, make your writers feel more comfortable because everybody, you know, when you get into a co-write, it doesn't matter, you know, how many co-writes you've done. If you're writing with somebody new, there's always a little bit of like learning that person, you know, and so this gets things going. 95% of the time when we have a track before we start, we have a melody going, you know, for the verse or chorus, and we're writing lyric within about 15 minutes. And that's what's cool about it because, you know, some people will bring in like 3 or 4 tracks and just say, hey, do you like this one? Do you like this one?
I do that all the time. And then people say,
so,
wow, I've already got an idea for that one. Let's use that one. And okay, here we go.
That's the quoted phrase. Like, you know, I already hear something for that. And that's why you already have a melody going because they start singing to it right away because they feel something.
They do. Sometimes I tell them, turn on that recorder. Do not sing another note because you're really inspired right now. Just turn on that recorder and don't forget that. That's a great melody right there. Yeah, that's cool.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and so, you know, the other thing which we've already been over is tracks give you a predefined layout, you know, so you already have your verse, you already have your chorus, all that kind of stuff. And I'll just say, you know, it just gets people excited to already have the produced track. You know, we were talking about it's almost like reverse songwriting in a sense of like, you know, you already have your fully produced something that sounds good. You already have
sort of a blueprint, and you fill in your own decorating within that.
And you're filling it in. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Joey.
Yeah, that I will say this, that having bought tracks from other places, which will remain unnamed, but you two really signal when we're at the pre-chorus, when we're at the chorus. You signal when there's a down chorus with very little instrumentation. You signal when there's a bridge. And I've gotten some other tracks and I'm like, oh, where does the verse start? And where does where does the chorus start? It's so clear in every track I heard on Jet Tracks.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. We actually, that's one thing we've talked about. So we're very focused on transitions in songs and how transitions go and that it feels like a transition.
Yeah.
And so that's why those sections are so outlined.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just still on this point, you know, I do my fastest songwriting when I'm inspired, when I feel an emotion. I've said this 30 times in this thing so far, but you know, I have to feel the emotion, you know, of that thing. And having a track gives you the emotion from the beginning. And it's gonna make for a better lyric. It's gonna make for a faster lyric because you already feel it. And we've already been over this, but top lining turns the cost, labor, and time-intensive demo process into simply adding vocals. We've already said that, but you can start pitching right away. There's a lot of times where when we top line, I'll just record the vocals right in the room, and like a work tape, not with a microphone, and we'll walk out and we have something we can pitch. And so that's kind of
that is cool. Now again, because some people came on a little late, you have tracks that are Americana, you have tracks that are EDM, country, contemporary country, pop,
Hip-hop.
hip-hop. Yeah,
Hip-hop,
some hip-hop.
R&B. There's R&B up there. What else? I can't think of if there's another genre, but there are a bunch of genres, and there are some that are cross genres too.
Yeah, many of them are, and that's kind of the beauty of it, really.
Yeah, because it's not like everything else that's in the genre. It's like, well, that's country with a little R&B, or that's pop with a little EDM with a little country. That's kind of cool. It could fit in any of those genres. So that's cool.
And it really aligns with, I think we can all agree, like, as we watch and see where the world is going, we're becoming
Genres are
to
blending.
genres are not only blending, but we're starting to live in a genre-less world where it's just music. It stops being about what label do we put on it. And that's the beauty. I think every track that we kind of focused on categories as far as tagging our tracks, and the beauty is that most of them will fall within 3 different genres or more. So.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, you hear, Gabby Barrett just has a song that was a #1 country song, and now it's a #1 pop song with Charlie Puth, and it was written as a country song. Now it's a pop crossover because it's pop country. It's cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's awesome.
All right. We got just a few more things to cover, and then we'll take some questions. Thanks for hanging in here with us, guys.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Especially on the holiday weekend.
I know we've got some lyric writers on here who aren't really melody writers, and so how to complete songs. So talk about that. We'll go through this quickly.
Yeah, we all know starting songs is easy and finishing songs is not so much. When I do solo writing, that's probably one of my biggest problems is I'll start a lot of songs and not finish them. And so there's a lot of reasons for that. For me personally, I'm too judgmental of my stuff. I just want to pick it apart to death. And that eventually leads to just losing interest in the song. And I'm just like, screw this. So, we've definitely all been there. But one thing that's helped me finish more songs and better songs comes from Marty Dotson, which I'm sure most of you guys know the concept, which is song blueprinting. And it's essentially there you go, the book.
The book. I can't help but market it. Come on, I co-wrote it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the concept is great. And, it's essentially that before you start the song, Ryland and I do this every write. And, before we start the song, we have our hook, and then we're like, okay, what is the verse going to be about? And we're like, I'm hurting because you left me, and then chorus is, this really stinks, and then verse is whatever, maybe one day I'll move on, and we literally write it out like that so that it makes logical sense and that it all points to the hook. And that has helped me more than anything. And I'm not lying when I say that Ryland and I do that every single write.
Mm-hmm.
But regarding top lining tracks, what's cool about this, especially for lyric writers, is that you have predefined sections. And so you can listen through the track, mark out the time, that each section is, and just write out and say, this section is going to be about this, and this section is going to be about this. And it's all laid out for you. And for lyric people, I would encourage you to, and I do this even though I do melody, is to speak or rap out your sections within the syllables context of the track. Does that make sense? So, like just rap it, I love you, girl, with, whatever. Rap those sections so that you have the amount of syllables correct for each section. And then at that point, you already know it's going to fit you know, because for a lot of lyric writers, you know, people ask me to do melody, and some phrases are too long, or you don't know if it's going to fit into the context. I'm like, can we take out a word here? Can we do this? Can we add that? Whatever, to make it work, you know, to make it sound good. And that's what's cool, is you already have it out there and you can rap out the syllables as you go. And then you can get a melody guy in there to just put those notes in the right section, which is cool.
And you brought up a really good point. So I think what's really interesting for lyric writers is, okay, sometimes a lyric writer might not have, because it's a different skill set, right?
Yeah.
They might not always have that sense of real estate. What I mean by real estate is like, okay, how much time do I have to talk about, to say what I'm going to say in this verse or this chorus, etc., right? And what you're kind of inheriting with a top lining track is when I should be done, when I should get to my point, right? Before I'm kind of hop on into that chorus or whatever. So that's kind of another byproduct. It's like you inherit a skill set that might not be in your toolbox, you know, as much as maybe like some of the lyric skills, you know, that you possess.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And also one of the most common struggles I hear from lyric writers is that they hear their song with a certain, you know, feel or melody, but they have trouble communicating, which I totally understand. And, you know, we were talking about that one of the cool things about tracks is that you can focus on what you're good at. And, you know, if you don't play an instrument, then you don't need to worry about that aspect of it. You know, focus on what you're good at and, you know, really let that shine in a way that's marketable, you know, because, you know, because you already have the produced track there. And so anyways, for lyric writers who have trouble communicating the feel, that's what's cool, is you can go and you can find a track that is the feel that you want. So you already have that, and then write your lyrics out, and then just have the melody guy fill it, and, you know, you have your feel. So, you know, when lyric writers come to me and want me to produce a track and they have trouble communicating it, it's hard sometimes. I'll be totally honest with you, you know, because I'm trying to capture what's in their mind, but they don't know how to say it, you know, and it's totally understandable. You know, so I'll usually ask for references and things of that sort, but having the track at the outset definitely helps that process.
Really helps. Now I'm going to jump on this last content slide, because this is sort of my specialty, because you guys are often the creators of tracks. I'm the consumer of tracks. And when I first came to Nashville and I learned about co-writing, which I hadn't done much before, I would sometimes bring in guitar stuff or piano stuff to start it. But as you say, it would take a while to get going, because we'd have to structure the whole thing, decide what's going to go in here and what's not. Is that the right chords? When I discovered tracks, everything went faster, and I became a more valuable co-writer, because some of my co-writers are actually on here, and I know Lucy was on. I don't know if she's still on, but Lucy and I write together, and I almost always bring 2 or 3 tracks, and we don't always write 2 tracks. I still play guitar, I still play piano, and none of those tracks really do it. That's not speaking to us today, and I'll still write to that. But I've become, you know, when I first came to Nashville, I didn't know many co-writers, and I become pretty booked up. I have like a month and a half of co-writes, and I write a lot. I mean, I was showing you guys my mug. I've written 194 songs. 193 of them were co-written. And I know my thank you. I know my co-writers they always count on me to bring something, a musical idea, and it's almost always a track. So I've become pretty attractive to my co-writers, and I'm getting a better class of co-writers. And I attract world-class melody writers, because they know I'm already bringing the track. And I'm going to bring an idea, title idea, and a track. Allie Joe, please mute yourself. That's weird. We're hearing some leakage from your thanks. Appreciate it. So it is fun to write with somebody who comes prepared with titles, but if they bring a track, I want to write with them. And for some reason, because I got excited about it, and because I'm doing all right financially, I've got a bunch of songs. I've got a bunch of tracks that I bring in. I haven't run out of tracks ever. And my co-writers love that about me. So, and the word gets around. So I think if you want to be somebody who, if you want to do some co-writing, but the other thing I'll have to say is that I said I wrote 194 songs, 193 of those I wrote with other people. And I said, you know, I used to write songs all on my own. I sat down to write a song and it just seemed too daunting to write it all on my own. But I got a track and I wrote a whole song to the track because I didn't have to do the heavy lifting of everything. I already had the structure, as you say. I already had that, you know, track that was already done. All I had to do was write the melody and the lyrics over it. Took care of 1/3 of the work, which usually my co-writers would do. You know, they'd be writing a melody or they'd be writing some of the lyrics or bring in a title. I had to do it all, and it took the weight off me to write songs on my own too. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, just along those lines, I mean, you talk about 194 songs. It's like, you know, the demo cost for, you know, demoing those is
Even a small percentage.
exorbitant. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it's 10% would be a lot, and I demo about 10% of my songs. But because I have
yeah, that's
tracks,
what Marty said.
yeah, because I have tracks for probably 50% of them, it really reduces the cost. Definitely.
Yeah, and you're able to pitch way more. I mean, that's one thing. You know, I started doing. I was doing tracks when I got into songwriting, but you know, I really, for people who were paying for tracks all the time, I was like, man, I'm like, how do you decide which songs you're going to, you know, spend $500 on? I mean, I
Right.
just that would just be, you know, I don't have to think about that problem, but I'm just like,
Yeah.
that would be a really hard thing to do. And you know, I give you guys credit for doing it. You know, and I think that's one cool thing about what this makes available, because
And just the time involved in
make a
getting it
lot more
done. And
songs.
as Ryland said earlier, you pay for that. Sometimes there's a really good person and their vision or their idea of what the track should be was totally different from how you anticipated it. And you're like, you know, it's a good track. It's just not the way I imagined the song would be. You know what you're getting when you got a track. So first of all, we've gone a little over our hour, but we're going to stay and answer some questions. I know we have people from all over the world, so I put together this little slide, and that is to thank everybody in many languages as I could think of. And some of you may know some of those languages. And the other thing is just to remind you that Joey and Ryland and the other producers that are on Jet Tracks have a bunch of tracks, but Joey and Ryland have agreed to give you one that they created because they can be generous with that. And if you sign up on the jettracks.com site to be on their mailing list, so they can let you know when new stuff comes out or anything else that's happening with Jet Tracks. And so go on to Jet Tracks before October 1st. We want to put a time limit on this because we want to give away tracks forever. We want to give you some incentive to go and check out the tracks. So the other thing is you can let other people who weren't on this webinar know about that offer. If they sign up before October 1st, anyone who signs up for the mailing list on Jet Tracks can get that free track. And if you're just dipping your toes into toplining, that's a risk-free way to dip your toes in. It won't cost you anything. You can try it out. If it's not for you, you know, maybe don't do it. But if you find, like I did, once you get a little taste, this is so cool. And I would actually recommend you write 3 different songs to that same track. Because what Ryland and Joey were saying earlier, don't get hooked on one way to do it. And if you can develop the flexibility of writing 3 different songs to the same track, your possibilities will multiply. And I've done it. I've written 5 songs to the same track, sometimes with different co-writers, and I don't tell them, I already wrote to this track because I don't want to influence them, what the song was about, what the emotion was, or what the melody was. And I'm telling you, just like we said, they have written a totally different song to the same track, different melody, different idea. They get inspired with different emotions. So go grab that track. This is the best deal around. You just made money by being on this webinar.
Hey, I just also want to add one other thing, just a reminder. So the tracks that are currently, for anybody who's interested in stems, I just want to remind you, the tracks that are currently on there, we do have the stems for. I'm going to mark all those tracks with a JE so that you will know. I'm going to send this out in an email if you're on my email list. But I'm going to mark those with a JE. If you get a Pro or Ultimate Plus license, I can give you the stems. The other thing with those tracks is if you want edits to the track or you want vocals mixed into the track after you've written it, I can do that for any of the tracks. Well, we can do that for any of the tracks that are currently on the site. So, so just know that. And then we're going to mark those with JE so that they are separate from other producers because we don't have that ability quite yet to where we can offer edits and things like that.
Let me just clarify a couple of things. First of all, not everybody knows what stems are. Stems are the stereo mixes, the individual files that make up these cool tracks that you're hearing. So that'd be a drum track and an organ track and a guitar track and a bass track and the various and when you hear those, you'll be amazed. It's so complex how they put together tracks. So those are the individual files that would go into a mixing thing like Pro Tools or Logic or GarageBand or something like that. You can get those because sometimes when you're doing sync, they want those to remix the track. And you may want to remix the track in a certain way if you bought the Ultimate, the Pro one or the, what's the last one called? The
Ultimate Plus.
Ultimate Plus, that's what I thought.
Or just if you're trying to learn mixing, I've had people just buy stems just so they can put it into their Logic and see how it's built.
Brilliant, and see how it's put together.
That's a good idea.
Learn how to mix. That is really cool. So that's one thing. The second thing is what they just said is if you want to hire, if you got a vocal or you want to get a vocal on it, you can hire them as producers for an extra charge. Obviously, they're going to put in their time and energy and find a vocalist if you don't have one. If you have vocals and you want them to mix it, you hire them to do that in addition to the leasing that you're doing for the tracks. So.
Yeah, and that's kind of outside the scope of jettracks.com.
Yeah, right.
But, feel free to reach out and.
But you can get to them.
As always, happy to accommodate, depending on, if you kind of have these edge case things. But that's kind of outside the scope of this site. I did look at. There's some really great questions.
So why don't you lead us? I'm going to stop sharing. This is the end of the slide part of it. So let's get out of this. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. We're going to be able to see people. And Ryland, you want to lead this?
Yeah, I just saw some really cool.
Oh, Pharisee, Robert Gibson's track. Pharisee, that's right. That's what it was called. Oh, good job, Robert Gibson. Cool track. I heard that track.
Okay, I'm going to try to hit these. I'm looking for like the first one that might have come in. I see, can we change the key if needed? Now these tracks are, they do come, again, they're pre-made. And the logistics that goes along with changing the key, that's not really part of what JetTracks offers. Mm-hmm. So to answer that question, the simple answer is jettracks.com doesn't provide that. However, the beauty of music is, regardless of the key, it's really the melodic choice that would kind of define that range, right. And, A&R people and decision makers in the music industry, obviously they, their ears, know how to adjust when it comes to, differences in semitones as it relates to the key of the song. So yeah, unfortunately we do not have an automated way to automatically change the key of the song. There are some third-party tools out there, and I've used stuff like that in the past. There's some really cool stuff. You guys reach out, I could share some of that info. But yeah, not something that JetTracks offers directly.
All right, you see, I see a bunch of other questions you want to, we'll each maybe grab one. Just scroll down and when you see
Bill,
one,
Bill, you probably have a good handle on the messaging. Can you maybe kind of read out the questions for us?
Yeah. Let me just do that. This is good. So, so we already covered some of these. Al Lama says, don't drive and ride to tracks at the same time, especially if you're pregnant or taking some medication. Yes. That's good. Let's see. How about Christopher says, I'm new to Toplining. The only tracks I've heard are the ones I wrote to on a recent Songtown lining track. They were great rhythmically in the arrangement, but I noticed some of them had very few chords. And one track I wrote to had only 2 chords in the whole song, which was quite challenging. I was wondering if the tracks written for toplining tend to deliberately use fewer chords than normal songs. Is it possible to transpose a section? But go ahead. What about?
Yeah, I think it just depends on the top lining track. I will say that top lining is probably, for the most part, I would say probably 75% is going to be what would constitute a song on the radio. You know what I'm saying? So it might not, if you're used to using a lot of chords that are outside the norm of what am I trying to say here?
Commercial
outside
radio.
of commercial radio. Then I would say that's more probably 25%. The 25% of tracks on there, they're definitely there. But now I'm not saying all that 75% are 4 chords and nothing more. Because there's lots of tracks with tons of different chords on there. But as far as chord structure goes and kind of staying away from odd structures, I would say, yeah, probably 75% of them are right down the middle as far as commercial.
And I could vouch that I haven't heard, I'm not aware of one that I was a part of, or I haven't heard one that Joey's produced. I've never heard one with 2 chords.
No, I haven't either.
Yeah, most of us are looking in. Yeah. Most of us are looking in that, leveraging those 4 chords, and a lot of times they're not going to be the same throughout the verse and chorus. Some of my favorite ones.
And go listen. Go listen to the Axis of Awesome. 4 chords is basically all you need. That's it.
Yeah. Well, and while that's true, I'm not sure who asked the question, but to their original point, if you're looking for something a little different, something a little more interesting that,
right.
That inspires you, those tracks are definitely out there where they're not like loops. And
that's the good news about this site. You go on there, and if there's only 2 chords on the song, it doesn't inspire you, don't buy it. If there's 2 chords on the song and you just are so excited about it, you can't wait to write to it, buy that one. So you can go on and listen to it before. In Songtown's thing, they give you 2 tracks, and that's it. You got to write to those tracks. This one, you've got many, many tracks. Okay, so this is a really good question, and I think I know the answer, and I'm going to say the answer first. Someone says, what if we co-write and the co-writers go together and buy the Ultimate Plus license? I think you're only licensing it to one person. Because somebody said, what if the co-writer and I go together and we share the cost? That gets messy to me. There should be one person that has the license. Now their co-writers could help them pay for it, but it's licensed to one person, not to a group, where all 3 of them could go out and, that, right?
Yeah, I would say it's licensed to one person. I think that's just to avoid messy situations. I think that's probably
the invoice,
the smartest thing.
To be cut and dry about it, the invoice goes to one person. We don't have a way to split an invoice or anything like that. Yeah.
So here's from Mark Dolan, who's a producer as well. So for clarity on Selling Tracks approval process, once he uploads a track, wait for email approval, and if it's approved, you add it to the site, or do you add it right away if it's approved? Do you have to wait?
Yeah, so you upload, it's a super easy process. So you just go to the sell page and then, register as a producer, and then you'll add your track, or click on the add track tab. You'll upload all your stuff there. So the files that will be delivered to anybody who licensed that track. So everything is automated from that point on. And you'll click submit, and then you'll receive a confirmation email on that. And then from there, we'll take a listen to the track, make sure all the files were uploaded correctly, make sure it's something we want to go live on the site. And then as soon as we click approve, you would get an email that says you were approved, and it'll be live on the site immediately.
So Rosie said, I'd be concerned if I write this really great song and I decide, I have to have the Ultimate Plus license, that somebody else would have already gone on there and bought it. Could happen, but if you write that song and you're really hooked on it, it's probably not going to go in the next 20 minutes or a day. It may. I mean, there's always a possibility, but what would you
The other guys might get paid the day before me, you see, and get in there, and then I'll stop. Then I
I
have
love
to
your
go
accent.
get-
Yeah, Rosie, I know it. Rosie, you think too
It could happen.
You think
Was-
too much.
was
It
this
could
the-
happen, and you think too much. And so
Was
I
this the race
agree.
I know.
condition question?
I've
It'd
done
be a great
that.
problem to have.
I've done that, but I've gone back months later. And I think if you go back days or weeks later, it's very unlikely.
Was this the race condition question?
Yes.
Rosie?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It was
yeah.
kind of like if you've been using the pro license and you've had some level of success, and you think, okay, right, this is get growing legs.
Mhm.
I'm gonna really have to get the ultimate one. And meanwhile, somebody like Bill has snuck in under the wire.
He's sneaky like that. He'll do that.
Typical Bill.
I know. You see, this is what
I know.
so it
That's
wouldn't be
you gotta
until-
worry about me.
It's
But,
like-
yeah.
Yeah. So
that was
yeah,
my concern.
yeah, exactly. Totally understood. To answer that, quickly and clearly, unfortunately, yeah, just the nature of the way the licensing works. Once the Ultimate Plus is sold, here's how we get around that race condition issue that you're speaking of. And obviously, in this very rare edge case, somebody purchases, so you have the pro license, somebody purchases the Ultimate Plus before you have a chance. Unfortunately, the Ultimate Plus goes to the first buyer. And if anything very strange happens where it's like, seconds within each other, or something of that nature, will accommodate any refunds that need to take place, of course. But unfortunately, yeah, the first buyer of the Ultimate Plus, just to kind of, we need to stick to our guns on the license and keep it fair for everybody. It's like, if you feel like maybe that Ultimate Plus is something you're going to need, it might just be best to get that from the outset, especially because upgrades are not automated.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you want to buy the license initially. We can accommodate an upgrade if needed, on a case-by-case basis, but you really want to kind of shoot for that license that you're going to need, that you think you're going to need long.
We'll just have to write it together, Rosie. That's the,
Yeah, there
that's
you
the
go.
ticket
What a great
there.
idea.
That's the ticket there.
Just
Yeah, that's
down with
right.
that laugh.
Then we won't be in the
But
race.
thanks, guys. No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Good
Yeah.
to hear your voice, Rosie.
Good question.
Good question. All right. Does everyone get the same free track, says Bill Lehman?
No. We will select from a pool.
We'll have, I think 4, right? 4 to
4?
And maybe
Okay.
because,
I didn't think that was true. That's very
Okay,
generous.
we haven't actually talked about that, so let's we'll discuss that.
I don't know about you, but I'm super, grateful for everybody being on the call today.
Yeah,
It's like,
sure.
I would love to kind of open that pool up a little bit so we can create even a little bit more
So
variety.
they'll
I don't
try
know,
and do
you
at
know,
least 2.
I'll-
They'll try and do at least 2, and there may be more than that. And
Definitely more.
here's what I would ask. They won't ask this, but I would ask, if you're, in reciprocity, if you would let as many people who you think would be interested in this site and in getting tracks know about it. They just started this. They put in a boatload of time and effort. If you would let people know, and especially before October 1st, so they can get their free track, we would really appreciate it, because I did this, I just like these guys. They're buddies of mine, and we're songwriting, partners and compatriots. And I'm like, you guys, what are you doing to launch it? And they're like, well, we're putting up the site and we've been working on it. And I'm like, no, you got to get it out there. Let's get as many people, because I am a track, as I say, I'm just so excited about writing the tracks. And I don't do it all the time. I still do regular chords and play on instruments, but boy, it is so much fun and so rewarding and so much faster. And to tell you the truth, I've written some of the best songs. Yeah, Mark Dolan says I'm a track whore. I will admit it. I am a track whore. And Mark knows that, because I brought in a lot of tracks for us to write to, too. And he and I have written probably 50 of those 194 together. So, yeah, he knows it. And now Mark's doing tracks, and he's going to probably apply to be on your site, because he's just really, track crack. I like that. Robert Gibson, you got it. Track crack. First hit is free. We're giving you that first hit is free, so be careful.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Track
hey, we're
crack.
super appreciative if you guys do know people, let them know. Yeah, we're trying to get the word out, and any help on that would be great. We're super thankful for Bill having this webinar, and
Yeah.
it's just It's awesome. Thank you guys for coming out too.
Yeah, thank you so
I'm
much.
not trying to end this.
So,
No, absolutely.
so
Yeah,
I want to answer. I want to answer one more, and I'm just gonna. I think I'm gonna answer this. But any planning? Are you planning on Ultimate Plus, buy one get one, or some other discounts? I discourage that, but these guys can decide that, and I think the site is new enough. So let's let them work it out. And Al says, "Will I be giving a free set of Ginsu knives if you sign up by midnight tonight?" No. Ginsu knives? No Ginsu
Can't
knives,
guarantee
Al. And if they
No
did,
promises.
if
Yeah.
I did, I would cut. I would get you a cut, Al. No,
Uh,
just joking. Just joking.
Yeah,
I would
just
get
on
a cut for our
the
songs, Al. That's what I would do with those Ginsu knives.
buy one get one or any deals. We're still talking through that kind of stuff because the thing is we're dealing with other producers' tracks as well, and so we just need to find a streamlined way to do something like that. You know, we can't just we're letting producers decide their own prices for tracks. We're producers ourselves, so we understand, they want to choose that kind of stuff. So we can't just put other producers' tracks on sale and be like, hey, we sold it at a cheaper price, So we need to we're figuring out a way to do that down the road. Yeah.
and also just trying to stay as competitive as possible to, to help out with the cost on some of this stuff. But yeah, is there any more questions?
Just a couple of things to finish off. A few people said thank you, Jennifer and Tammy, and a few other people.
Thank you.
Christina, thank you, Christina. Hey, Robert, would you put in what the name of your track again and what award it won or what contest it won, just so I can announce that to everybody, because that is so cool.
Oh, it wasn't me, Bill. I saw the same.
Oh, you
post.
saw it. Okay, I was going to say,
The track was called Pharisee, though, and it's pretty cool. I think it was
Pharisee.
Steve somebody.
Oh, Steve Huff. Steve Huff. That's right. Steve
Correct.
Huff.
Yeah.
Is that the one he wrote to your stuff, Joey?
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
He just told me he had won the award, so I wasn't sure what.
I'm pretty sure that's the one, but I may be misrepresenting. But thank you all for being here. If you have other questions, write these guys at info@jettracks.com. It's Joey Ebach and Ryland Fisher who are the masterminds behind this. There's so many tracks on there now, but there are going to be more as time goes on. If you're a producer, contact them. See if you can get some of your tracks up there. I'm going to go back regularly and get more tracks. So thank you all for being here. And I recorded this. I think it all worked. And we will be posting a replay somewhere. So if you know somebody who wants to watch it, just watch our socials. Sign up for the email list at jettracks.com, because they'll be sending out a replay email that will have a link to the replay. And so let people know, get up on there, get their free track, and then they'll get notification of anything else like this. And we may jump on and do another one about jumping into how do you write great melodies to a track. We may do some other educational stuff as time goes on. So that's another incentive to get on the email list. All right. So thank you all for being here. And
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Ryland.
it. Have such a great holiday weekend, guys.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So
Thank
great.
you guys.
All right, I'm going to stop the recording. Sorry, Mary, you just jumped in and we're just ending. But there'll be a replay. Go sign up at jettracks.com and we'll send you the link for the replay. Bye-bye.
Let us know.
Mary.
Let us know if you have any questions that didn't get covered, guys. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
definitely.
Everybody say
Okay,
hi.
bye-bye. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Rosie. Thanks for staying up so late, even though the sun's
No
not
problem.
behind you.
Well worth.
All right. Bye-bye, all.